Hey, what's up, Street Talks? The Eric from the Eric from Street Photography blog. So one thing I want to share with you is this philosophy of monetizing your passion. So the first question is, why monetize your passion? I think a lot of us want to monetize our passion because we want to spend all of our waking hours pursuing our passion, which is totally legitimate. It's something that I wished, and my aspiration was to be a full-time photographer, to travel full-time, to blog full-time, whatever it may be. Essentially, I think the bigger reason is I wanted control over my schedule and my life without having to go to an office every single day. And I think most people would probably agree the same thing, is that most of us, the reason why we want to do what we want to do, sorry, I'm totally moving you around. The reason why we want to do what we want to do is because we hate doing toilsome labor, doing shit we don't want to do. And so the question is, if I monetize my passion, will I lose my passion for it? Obviously, the easy answer is no. It's just because you monetize your passion doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna lose passion for it. But things I would say about monetizing your passion is this. Monetizing your passion in itself won't cause you to lose passion for what you do. But the problem is when you try to monetize your passion, often trying to figure out ways to actually make profits from your passion might lead you to compromising whatever you do. And I think this is why Nassim Taleb is quite interesting. He provides this concept of barbelling it, is that doing your passion on the side and just doing something else for making money. Also, the Vietnamese have a saying, is your left hand job or right hand job and your left hand job. I forget which is which, but essentially the idea is that your left hand job is generally what makes a living. Like, whether you're a firefighter or a barista, whatever. And your right hand job is what you like to do, what your actual passion is, and what you like to do, for personal fulfillment. And so the more traditional view is, however you decide to pay your rent, that's one thing. And when you pursue your passion, to do it 100%, no compromise. And it is true in the sense that if you study the history of philosophy, like if you study Spinoza, I think for a living he grinded, he was a lens maker. And even Einstein, when he came up with the theory of relativity, he was just a kind of a nondescript clerk at the Swiss patent office. Essentially, it's, to my understanding, it's like the equivalent of the DMV for maybe the Swiss. And even Nassim Taleb, when he wrote his first, I think, few books, he worked 25 years as a full-time trader, a very obviously stressful job. And so just because other people have certain formulas for success doesn't necessarily mean it's going to apply to you. So for example, when I discovered that, I'll just tell you a personal story about myself. I was working full-time, typical office tech job, and I was kind of plotting my escape, right? And I was thinking to myself, how could I actually make a living out of my photography? And I had really no idea until I got laid off. And I had already taught a few workshops before, and I just did some basic maths where I'm like, okay, if I charge, let's say $500 a person and get 5 people to sign up, oh, that's already my rent, like my living expenses for a month. And so I found that teaching workshops has obviously not hindered my passion for photography. If anything, it gives me more passion for photography, because when I'm pursuing my passion of photography, I'm able to make my living by doing the workshops, and then I can make videos like this and create content and information which I hope could empower other people. Now, I think the problem is that there is no secret formula for what's going to work and what's not going to work. Even if you're the smartest person in the world, even though you're the most hardworking person in the world, just because of all that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to become successful or be able to successfully monetize and do what you want for a living. And therefore, my very, very basic principle is the easiest way to make a living from your passion is to reduce your living expenses as low as humanly possible, and then obviously hustling to make an income from your passion. So let me give you practical examples from what like I'm doing. So for example, right now, Cindy and I were saving a ton of money by living in Cindy's family's house. And some people are, oh, you know, I can't do the shame of living in my mom's house. I'm like, dude, you get like, if you could get much more affordable rent, like even we're staying with Cindy in her mom's house, we're paying some money for rent, but it's very nominal. And yeah, simple things like not buying stuff that's superfluous, being more economical with your money. Even when Cindy and I, we go out to have dinner together, we'll generally share a single entree together. Other things that we'll do is, let's see, what else do we do? Yeah, I mean, 90% of my diet is just eggs. And here in Little Saigon, you could actually buy a dozen eggs at Aldi for like $1. It's kind of insane. So on average, I probably eat 10 to 12 eggs a day, just cheap protein. And I think the point isn't necessarily to monetize for monetization's sake or to make a shitload of money. The point is to make enough money from your passion where it could pay your expenses and pay for your food. And so if you just do the basic maths, right? The first mission we have is just to pay rent. So how much do you pay for rent? Some of us, it could be $2,000 a month, $1,000 a month, $500 a month, whatever. If you could reduce your living expenses to the bare minimum, this is obviously beneficial and desirable. So just do the math, like how much you need to pay for rent. And if you really, really want to pursue your passion for a living and have more freedom over your life, the best strategy is to lower your rent. So things you could do is you could rent out half of your room to a roommate. You could move in with your partner. You could move in back to your parents' house. I don't know, figure out some sort of living accommodations, which is a lot more affordable to you. And some things that me and Cindy we've done, like even when we were living in Saigon, living in Vietnam was actually cheaper than living in the States, even living like a more baller lifestyle. One thing we're gonna actually do is in February, we're gonna actually live in Mexico City for a month because we went there for our honeymoon. We freaking loved it. And even through Airbnb, a month living expenses, a month rent in Mexico City was $500. And that's the expensive end. I've even heard some expats or some Americans or foreigners being able to live in Mexico City for like $200 a month in rent. So I think that's really the biggest secret, is reducing your living expenses to the lowest possible. Even now, like, I don't have a phone plan. You don't really need it as long as you have a Wi-Fi connection. And even with clothes, we already have all the clothes we need. Entertainment is pretty much free on the internet. And it doesn't mean that like don't spend any money, but I would actually recommend treating it like a game, right? Is that it's not to self-flagellate yourself to, oh my god, I shouldn't spend money, you're just like whipping yourself in the back. But it's finding creative ways to find joy and entertainment in life for not that much money. Even now, whenever Cindy and I go to the coffee shop, even though you guys all know that I'm a freaking coffee freak, usually I'll just like share a coffee with her, just get a single drip coffee and share it with her. Sometimes you get free refills, whatever. And I think no matter how rich you are, everyone loves to get a good deal on anything. So try to make a fun game out of it. See how economically you could live. Like even a simple exercise you could do for yourself is figure out how cheap you could feed yourself a day. This is like insane, like being here in Little Saigon. You could go to the ethnic market, like one of the Middle Eastern markets. You could buy fucking 10 pounds of potatoes for $1. 10 pounds. I mean, I probably wouldn't eat 10 pounds of potatoes because I don't want to get fat, but it's kind of insane how cheap you could feed yourself if you really look. Like even when we were living in more expensive places, like on the East Coast, when we were in Boston, and even when we were in London for a bit, food's obviously a lot more expensive. But simple things like buying organ meats if you want more protein. If you buy hearts, liver, and the stuff that people don't want, you get that shit for hella cheap, right? And just be creative with your lifestyle. Like even one thing that Cindy and I, when we were in Berkeley, we wasted so much money because we'd go to like, it's funny because we've been to all the stores, like even Costco, it's like, oh, you know, we'll go to Costco to save some money. But every time you go to Costco, you buy like a ton of shit, and then you don't want the food to go bad, so you just eat it all. So by getting rid of our Costco membership, we actually end up saving a ton of money. And even now when we go to the grocery store and buy food, we like to go deal hunting. So even at like, there's a Mexican supermarket, it's 70 cents a pound for like pork loin. So we've just been eating a ton of pork loin, just crock pot that baby. And so just figure out how cheaply you could feed yourself. And I mean, we're lucky we have zero debt. And so if you could quickly pay off your debt as quickly as possible, even after I graduated, my number one focus was to get rid of my debt as fast as possible. So paying off my debt, and now that we're debt free, essentially, I mean, and this is really the hardest thing, honestly, it's really hard and difficult not to waste your money on superfluous things. What I've been trying to do, I think the best mental strategy I've had for myself to save money is, once again, kind of make it into a fun game where you're kind of like what Seneca says, you're living in simulated poverty. Because, you know, I actually grew up pretty poor, and you kind of make a fun game out of it, because to be frank, when you have too much money and too much options, it's actually more stressful. So maybe what you could do is, even when you go to the grocery store, only buy food which is on sale. And even with clothes, right? I just wear pretty much the same all black outfit every single day, and that's fine. And as photographers, we tend to, I mean, I don't know about you, but I tend to get this too, is that like, you feel that your photography is never good enough because you don't have the right equipment. But what if you had the mindset where you thought to yourself, oh, I know that I kind of have shitty equipment, but you kind of make it into a fun game. It's like, oh, how I want to flex and show off by being able to make really good photos on a shittier camera. Because like, let's say if you went out and you took a bunch of photos and people really liked it, and you shot it on like a $10,000 camera, people are like, oh, you know, you only make good photos because it's $10,000. But if you went out and just took photos on your phone, whatever, and people are like, wow, that's really good photos, you're like, yeah, I just shot on my phone. It's almost a positive way to flex, to show off, to say, hey, look, I have like shittier equipment and I've been able to make good use of it. So that's another good way you could flex, is by showing off that, hey, I can make good stuff without needing the greatest and the best. And so kind of make it into a fun game. Other tips I would give to monetizing your passion is, obviously, and this is a long-term strategy too, is that you don't want to get into partnerships where someone else is paying you. You want to essentially be your own boss. So for example, if you're a rapper, better to start your own label and start hustling rather than trying to get signed by a big label. And I think this is the mistake a lot of photographers try to do, is that, oh, you know, once I could get a camera brand to sponsor me, or once I could, you know, get paid talks or whatever from other people. No, you become dependent on them to make a steady living. Rather, you want to own yourself and be the source of income. So obviously there's a trillion ways to make money, but I've practically found the best way to make money is through teaching workshops, educational things, and selling products. So hapticindustries.com, it's a company that Cindy made, and we produce our own camera straps, we publish our own books through Haptic Press, and it's been a good source of income. And obviously we're not like swimming in gold bars, but certainly enough money that we don't have to stress out about rent, and yeah, it allows me to create more information and content, which I really believe in. And that's really the hard thing, is as an entrepreneur, the end goal isn't to make money for the sake of making money, but once again, it's to monetize your passion enough that you could sustain yourself, to live below your means, to essentially kind of live more like a poor person, but to have more freedom. Even the richest people out there, the reason why they're rich is because they're able to live below their means. So next time you see some guy driving around in a new Beamer, they're probably not that rich, they're just leasing that lifestyle. Even think about the richest people in the world. A lot of them just drive old cars and still live in the same homes they did forever. So anyways, some practical tips for monetizing your passion in photography. Also some other philosophical things I want to share with you. One, monetizing your passion isn't evil if you're not selling out. The only definition I have of selling out is to compromise your morals, your ethics for some other gain. Also realize that just because you work hard doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be successful, but the harder you work and the more intuitive, the more ingenuity you have, you're going to increase your likelihood or the percentage chance of you becoming successful in whatever you do. And also the best way to make a living from your passion is to just reduce your living expenses to as little as humanly possible. And yeah, other practical things to think about. You must own your own website and blog. That's the best way to own your own platform in today's digital age. So generally speaking, I think the easiest option is just sign up via bluehost.com, install wordpress.org, make your own website blog, which is essentially the same thing. This way you could actually get indexed by Google and people could find your website and your platform when they're just Googling around the internet. Also start your own YouTube channel. To be honest, I don't think the best way to make money is to actually directly put advertisements on YouTube, but rather it's to use YouTube as a way to build, it's essentially free marketing for you and your own brand. So whenever I start these videos, I say, oh, Eric Kim Street Photography Blog. So people are, oh, his name is Eric Kim, so I'm increasing the brand awareness of my own name. And Eric Kim Blog, oh, what's that? So people go on Google, search Eric Kim Blog. So anyways, YouTube's a free thing you could use. With social media like Instagram, Facebook, honestly, I'm super suspicious of it now. I think it's just a drain. I think in today's world, honestly, and this is kind of controversial, I don't think you need a Facebook or an Instagram. Ultimately, it's a whack distraction. The two things I would actually focus on is your own website blog, YouTube, and then build up your own email newsletter. I use MailChimp.com. It's free for I think the first 1,000 subscribers, but then once you break $1,000 subscribers, it starts costing money. It's not super cheap. Like I think I have about like 13,000 subscribers on my email newsletter and I maybe pay like $100 a month. But whenever I have new workshops or products I'm selling or tips I want to send out or ebooks, whatever, I'll send that out and they'll be good. And yeah, so to know that obviously it is possible to monetize your passion, I have, and I'm not that much, or I don't really think I'm smarter than you. I'm actually probably stupider than most people, but I guess perhaps my biggest attribute is I'm not scared, I like to say my mind, I work hard, and yeah, it's the more effort you put in, the higher you're going to increase your likelihood of success. And yeah, ultimately be you, have fun, and yeah, just never stop hustling, right? Like even Kendrick Lamar, he has tattooed on his arm, hustle like you're broke. Yeah, there's an upside to poverty, there's an upside to having less money. Take pride in it and enjoy the struggle. Like Talib Kweli says, life is a beautiful struggle. Entrepreneurship is all about risk taking, it's all about making value. Just be you, have fun with the process, and stack that cheddar. Peace out.